Welcome to Radio Free Will, a podcast for sovereign people. Coming at you live and direct from Griggstown, New Jersey. I'm your host, George McCullough. On the controls is Anna Savoya, and once again with us today is Michelle Mockers, artist, activist, and philosopher.
A lot of things.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. Well, you are a lot of things. So we just survived a unexpected snowstorm. It was horrible up here in New Jersey. The roads were closed. There must have been hundreds of cars crashed and everything like that. So I just want to wish everybody well, that they got home safely, and hopefully that was the last snowstorm for the winter. I hope so. Because to tell you the truth, I hate shoveling snow and I hate the cold weather. But you put up with it.
No, I agree with you. I hate the cold water. I prefer summertime.
Yeah, I prefer summertime. Springtime's nice. Fall's nice. It's the dead of winter.
When we have the sun.
When there's no light and there's nothing, it kind of drives me a little nuts. Yeah. But it's also a good time for us to do our podcasts when you don't want to go outside and you need indoor activities to do. Hopefully it won't snow too much, and Michelle, you'll be able to come over every week. And
I hope so, my dear. Not be buried in the snow.
Keep the podcast going. If not, let us know. We'll move all the equipment over to your place. So today we're going to continue our discussion on politics and philosophy of the world. I forget where we left off at, but Michelle, you were telling me before we got started that you might be getting some kind of award from France. What was that?
Oh, the Légion d'honneur.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
The Légion d'honneur is the highest, how can I say that? The highest medal that you can have from France. And usually it's given for military people. Did something extraordinary, were heroes in the war, which I'm not, by the way, or to some people with the contribution to the whole country is so important that they give the Légion d'honneur once more, which is a medal which is the highest that you can have in France.
And you're being nominated.
I will be nominated because beside that I'm one of the last, my dear, the last remaining, I should say, of the French resistance against the German inside of France. You know, when I started to do it, I was, when I created what they call a maquis, which was a group, of people fighting the Germans. When I created my first group, I was only 21 years old. So I had people who were, 30, 40, 50 years old. So those people, I suppose they are gone since a long period of time, and that because I was so young, I'm still in good health, my dear. I'm only, as you know, 96. So, come on.
And you have a birthday coming up, too.
I have a birthday coming on, yeah, sure, in December. So I am certainly one of the last, representative of the French resistance. So plus I did work with the British mission at that time. So I had two citations, one from the British and one from the French for what I have done, So they are going to give me that as one of the last precisely representative of the inside fight against the Germans.
Are you going to have to go to France?
Oh, no, they do that here, Oh, no, they don't have to go to France. The French, consul or whatever, the military people, you have some military, French military in the U.S. They'll be here. It's something very, very official, in fact.
And can our podcast follow along?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be nice? A little special podcast? You just got to keep us posted.
Yes.
But you said you were given it to before, after the war, and you turned it down?
Yeah, I turned it down. Well, yeah, because as I told you, I finally ended up with a British mission. I was, in fact, a soldier under lieutenant on the 344 Regiment of Artillery of Her Gracious Majesty. So at the end of the war, my boss, Pearl, she said, I have 2 Légion d'honneur to distribute. Do you want one? And at that point I said no, because that is going to remind me for my whole life that that war that I hated. In fact, I hated the war. I did it, but I hated the whole thing. So I said, you are going to remind me, that is going to remind me for my whole life, those bad moments of my life. So no, I say no. Now, my dear, being the last one, and beside that, being involved in few things, I will accept very nicely the Légion d'honneur as a representative of once more of one of the last of the French resistance.
Now, you were saying you wanted to accept this award because you're going to enter into politics here in the U.S.
Yeah, and beside that, the Légion d'honneur, every French person doesn't have the Légion d'honneur. Very few people have the Légion d'honneur, and it will, if you want, it's a declaration that I did what I had to do, during the war. I was one of the fighters against the Germans, so that, if I can say so very modestly, that helps, if you want, build my political personality.
And why is it that you want to get into politics here in the U.S.?
Well, first I came in the U.S. when I was invited to come in the U.S., but I already I must begin by the beginning. My whole story that we are talking about today started in 1948 on the Boulevard Saint-Germain in Paris, discussing with one of my uncles, who was very involved in a lot of things, and we were talking about dialectic and dialectic of the arts. And at that time he said something that I said, you, my uncle, you don't know exactly what you are talking about. I mean, you don't, and you cannot see what it is in the future. And I had a vision of it, what it could be in the future. And I say, that is the future, if you want, philosophy, if there is a philosophy to be proposed, 1948. So when I was invited, I always had that in my mind, even when painting and all that, I did work on that. So when I was invited in 1968, I was invited by TWA to come to the US. And I say, I go to the US because if you want to change something, I don't want to use the word revolution, if you want to make a revolution, if you were in the time of Rome, you could not go to a small village in what is today France to make that. You had to go to Rome. So when they did invite me to go to the US, I say, the strongest country in the world is the place where you can do that. Beside that, that is, if you want the political side, there was also a side that I always say, like the painters of the Renaissance or the painters of the old times, I will go to where I have the most commissions. And it happens that if I have been invited by TWA, it's because I had some commissions in churches and places here in the US. And as a painter, I'll say, hey, where I have my commission is my country. And I should say that I am an American citizen and I will do everything. I would fight for the American citizen like I did fight for the French, exactly the same way, my dear. When you give when you accept a nationality, you accept the whole thing with no restrictions. So I accepted the whole thing with no restrictions, but with something in my mind. I am in the strongest country in the world. I am in Rome. And I am in Rome for one very specific reason. Through the years, I put together what I call the dialectic of the arts. The dialogue between inspiration, which is something completely abstract, which you cannot put on the table, but what is on the table are brushes and pens. And you put those two things together and you create a piece of art. And you can do exactly the same thing if you take all the elements of society and put them together. For me, the problem of the world is that, if you want, the two, let's say, political, I don't want to say philosophy. One is capitalism, which is not a philosophy, capitalism, not at all. And communism, which is a philosophy but negative and that I cannot accept. The dialectic of the arts is a positive philosophy. So it's why I want to, I can say it, I present myself for the presidency because I want to take advantage of that period where everybody is more or less concerned with politics to appear on the political, let's say, scene stage, if you want, of politics, with the dialectic of the arts, to propose a positive, for the very first time since the beginning of recorded history, for the very, very first time, that a positive philosophy has been proposed as directing a country, directing the world. It's done for the world. It's not done specifically for the United States. Of course, it could start here, and the example of the United States is the biggest possible example, but it's for, the philosophy is not specifically for the US, it's for the whole world.
Could we start it in New Jersey?
Of course. You have to start somewhere.
And make New Jersey the
I
example.
have to start somewhere. So today with you, you know, it's both of us right now. But I have to extend. So I'm going to use all the possible means, printed or internet or whatever, to spread the idea that the art can propose a political philosophy.
So I'm hoping that we're going to establish MichelleMachersForPresident.com and people can get a hold of all the information and drawings and stuff. You said you were going to do a whole campaign just on drawings.
On drawings, yeah. Contrary to anybody who are discussing stupidly some stupid ideas, you know, I want just, it will be very simple. I have a series of drawings, you know, my whole life, so I still have some drawings, and I'm going to spread all those drawings to change completely the climate, if I can, on my side at least, the climate of political, you know, running. It's a lot of politics, it's a lot of newspaper, everything. I'm going to try to move everything with drawings, to say, we present another world. And people, you know, you have so many people all over the world who are so fed up with the way the world runs that I will say we propose something completely different, positive and different.
Well, an example, I know what you're talking about when you say people are fed up. I mean, we just had to sign up for healthcare, for affordable healthcare, healthcare.com, and boy, what an oxymoron. It is not affordable. It is like, it's going to be a nice chunk of our pay out of this year. But and then you still have to pay all the deductibles and all that kind of stuff. And I don't understand how in the U.S. we don't have health care for everybody.
For a very specific reason, my dear, and it's where I repeat myself, but the U.S. have absolutely no philosophy to guide the country. It's everybody for himself. So all the companies, they sell you all what they can sell, even if it's completely incoherent. When you look at the health care, it's absolutely incredible. It's incredible. It's such a mess. But why a mess? Who is behind the mess and who has profit from the mess?
Yeah, who's making the money off
Exactly.
of it? And they're supposedly non-profit companies, and it's like, you got to be kidding. So the first rule of this positive thing is that everybody needs to take care of everybody else.
Yeah.
It's not looking out for the individual.
You know, the definition of society, in a dictionary, I believe I'm not mistaken, saying society is made of interdependent individuals. That's society. So when you look at the United States, it's competitive people.
Yeah.
Not interdependent, competitive. So competitive. Healthcare, everybody is competing to sell you whatever it is to make money out of it. It's the most incoherent system that I've ever seen in the world.
But there weren't a lot of companies to choose from, right? There were like two companies, maybe a third one that was thrown in there, and it was like,
It's hard to tell because most of them are scams. So the process to figure out which one are not or it's tedious. So I didn't go through that, so I can't tell.
yeah, you just gotta pick one and cross your fingers that it's gonna work.
My dear, that starts from the very first guy who invented what it called the flying shuttle to produce in England. It's in the beginning of it's in the 17th century. You know, to make how do you call that? With the machine, you know, the machine was replacing to make it by hand. So there is that first man who invented the first thing that goes by itself. It's called, that was that. And that was the beginning of capitalism. Because from that moment, to have those machines, you have to buy them. So you have to buy the machine. If you had the money, you bought the machine, and you make people working on that machine. Instead of doing it by hand, they were doing it on the machine, but you were paying them as much as you wanted to pay them.
Right. Well, I can understand. I can live with small c capitalism. Like if two people want to sell ice cream and one person makes their ice cream in a different method or whatever to compete against one another, that seems fine. But when it's huge companies that are owning all the resources and like all oil in the world, or insurance companies, I don't quite comprehend insurance companies at all.
What is unacceptable in the capitalist system? What's unacceptable?
They're all monopolies
Is that people? You have very, very few people who have way too much money, and too many people who don't have enough money to survive decently. So that's what has to be reduced. Means you should not go over a certain point of money if you want. Whatever the way to make the money, that's something else. And also you should not have people starving at night with no dinner to go to bed. So, you know, we are in the Middle Ages with that. We are still in the Middle Ages. It did not change in the Middle. It did not change once more. When it was the first machine in England, it's England we started capitalism. With the first flying shuttle was the beginning of capitalism. You had the money, you bought the machine. When the steam engine came out, the people who had the money bought the steam engine, created factory, moved by the steam engine, and then the workers we were in the past were doing everything, you know, by hand, you know, in guilds and all that. They were obliged to go to work in those factories to make some money. And the owner of the factories was treating them, I repeat myself, but that doctor, I believe it was Dr. Grappin, his name was Grappin, who said, for the worker today, to live is not to die. So that was the condition that the owners of the steam engine imposed upon the workers. Of course, the workers with the rebellions, with this, with that, with after that, with Marxism, things did improve for the worker, but not that much. Not that much. You still have people who have, let's say, too much money, and people who don't have enough money to survive. So that should not be. And that is like if you were making a painting out of the frame.
Right.
So a painting, the frame is something, let's say, abstract. Physically speaking, you don't need a frame, but let's say it is the equivalent of painting, making a painting out of the frame.
And how do we resolve this?
We resolve that, my dear, in very simple, in some kind of very simple way. Above a certain amount of money, that money goes back to the Commonwealth. You cannot make more money than that much. That's it. And you must help those who do not have enough money.
I can agree with that. And what do we do with the military spending?
Oh, come on, you know that.
It's trillions of dollars a year.
The military has the,
They can't even
has
account
more-
for the money they got.
has more than half the budget of the United States. Now I saw something which is typical of the military. Once I heard a noise, and I look, and there was 20 trucks, all in line like that, all with running engines. And I asked the colonel who was communicating, I said, well, what happened with your truck? Why are you there? He said, oh, we have to spend all the gas, otherwise next month we don't have the same amount of gas. We have to prove that we use all the gas. So that's the military, my dear. That's the
Yeah.
military in war peace, in the time of peace, I mean. So the trucks were running to spend the gas if they wanted to some amount of gas next month. It's completely insane, but it's your money that was running in those trucks.
Yeah, imagine how much better off the people in the U.S. would be in the world if the United States would just stop spending money on the military. It's like they're spending money on the military for everybody else in the world.
Yes, but my dear, we're still in the U.S. The country will say, hey, you must go along with what I say, otherwise I'm banging your heads. So we have to believe that we are strong. We have to have the strongest army, even if we are the 18th for education, which is something else. So we have the strongest army, but we don't have education, or we don't have correct healthcare. But we have the strongest army in the world, so that the president can say, hey, if you don't listen to us, we send you a missile. That's exactly, my dear. Since the beginning, you have something like, today we could say almost 6,000 years of written history. Before, nobody was written history, you know. So 6,000 years, if you look at it, if you have the book which has, you know, all the events, it's 6,000 years of war. Means that the most, I should say, good thing of people goes into wars, including that if you are killed, you are killed. If you are not killed, you can suffer for the rest of your life. I mean, all what is inside, beside the war, is not only the people who are killed, but all the people who suffer directly or indirectly of the war. So why 6,000 years of war, you know? So if you go also in the dictionary and look at the word politics, the first thing that comes is art of politics. So in other words, the art of politics for 6,000 years has been the art of making war, because war is the continuation of politics.
Now, we just passed Veterans Day this week, and the one thing I kept hearing is people saying, oh, we want to thank our veterans for keeping us safe. And I'm thinking to myself, in my lifetime, when has the U.S. military ever kept me safe? You'd be hard-pressed to name a time. The one time when the U.S. was attacked, if you believe the story, at 9/11, nobody, the military failed so miserably, despite giving them as much money as they possibly want.
Oh, absolutely, come on. The military is just done. You know, the military is made to make wars.
So who are they keeping safe?
Nobody. The military is a permanent menace upon your head. Mr. North Korea say, I have the way to, I can today send you a missile on some cities of America. So what does it mean? I tell you, we are not even in Middle Ages, we are all older than that. There has been no improvement, if you want, in the behavior of humanity and the behavior of social politics and all that. It's always one country, and it's always the same thing. Why Hitler, for example? Let's come back in more recent time. Well, Hitler was a monster.
I can see in your lifetime, World War II, I'm assuming that the United States Army kept American citizens safe, although you could probably make a strong argument that the U.S. could have stayed out of the war and everything would have been.
Yeah, but me, I fought against Hitler,
Uh-huh.
against his armies. So why Hitler? It's always the same thing since the beginning. Is the same thing. First World War was won by the Allied, and the Allied imposed upon Germany the loser. It's always through the centuries the same thing. You are going to make the loser pay for all what you had to do to make him a loser. So we impose upon Germany such a condition of payments and such condition that the Republic of Weimar went down because no money at all. So when there is no money at all, that you have people with no work at all, you have a guy who comes out and say, hey guys, I'm going to give you all the work you want. And they follow him. They did follow him. We created the condition for Hitler.
Well, are we creating those same conditions because the IMF and the World Bank create those same kind of payments that Germany was imposed with in Latin America, in other Haiti and all
All the
these other.
countries are broke. Yeah,
They're all broke, yet they're in
Absolutely.
massive debt.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, it's once more, it has always been, there is no, that's where I said there is no philosophy in the world to give the world. The communism is a wrong philosophy. It's a wrong philosophy because it's based on negation. The world is made of contradiction. Everything contradicts everything. The proletariat contradicts the bourgeoisie. And the only way to solve a contradiction, following Hegel, is to suppress one of the terms of the contradiction. The proletariat has to suppress the bourgeoisie to become a synthesis, society, the classless, the society with no class. It's very nice. But if you go like that from negation to negation, they don't know. After that, they say, oh, we don't know what will happen. Of course, they don't know what will happen when it will be a classless society. You know what will happen in a classless society? At the end of it, when you proceed by negation negates itself. Has no other solution, nothing else to negate but itself. And then you end back in the Middle Ages again with a guy elected for life to direct the country, China, elected for life, my dear, like a king of the Middle Ages. Only the king of the Middle Ages were elected for life. So the communism, instead of being the proletariat, the dictatorship of the proletariat, is now under the will of one man. We are back in Middle Ages. The capitalism on its own side doesn't do much better because once more, as you say, the army is taking more than half the budget. All what you pay everywhere with your salary, more than half of it goes to the army. To do what? To do what? Like my trucks, to spend the gas, or to build the latest missile that you can send all around the world? To kill more people? This time it will not kill 10,000 people, it will kill 10 million people. Is that the destiny of the world? Is where I say men are not even at the level of animals. Animals don't do that. Only men do that. And only men destroy humanity.
And not only destroy humanity, it seems like they're out to destroy the earth too.
Yeah, but the Earth's planet will be for sale after that. Okay, so yeah, but we will be gone, so we will not care about that. If there is not a single tree left, for whom? That will not be very important, my dear. If they visit the planet Earth at that time, they say we can do nothing with that. The guy coming from the other side of the universe, he will say, oh, that's their planet. They destroy themselves. They will try to figure out why that planet became like that.
And why do you think?
They will find out.
Because the philosophy of the people.
Yeah, exactly. The people with no philosophy at all. Once more, society, instead of being a society is made of members who are interdependent. I help you, you help me, we discuss, we do business, whatever it is. We are interdependent, all of us. And society today is the reverse of that. Absolutely the reverse. Competition.
Well, they're still interdependent. It's just the ultimate goal is that we're competing against one another. There's still rules that are set in place that make people interdependent, right? There's no rules. You can do this. You can't do that. Da, 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 da.
No. Yeah, we talk about liberty. You talk about liberty at that point. But liberty is something that in society, liberty is something that you can exert inside the laws that govern that society. In other words, you cannot do what you want. You have to observe the laws of the country, and inside that sort of laws, you are free to do what you want inside of that. Now, when you look at free enterprise is exactly the reverse of that. Free enterprise is the survival of the fittest. So you kill the competition. You don't care if you put all the workers on the street, that's something else. But you kill, is the legal way, is the legal law, the legal permission, the legal thing to kill, which is the reverse of society. But to kill at international level. So in fact, at international level, we do not cooperate, we do not help each other, we compete against each other. And every country compete against each other, and industry compete against industry, instead of collaborating. If we want the Earth to survive, we have to collaborate, to make it surviving. Otherwise, it will not die, my dear, it will not die.
Well, since this program is called Radio Free Will, what does it mean to be a free person?
You can be a free person, I believe, only on your mind, my dear. Because in reality, you're not free. Even your house, you are obliged to, for some reason, which are, some of the reasons are reasonable, if I can say so, but you are obliged to go according to all the ordinances, laws, blah, 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 blah. And then you are free inside of that. You cannot do what you want under the name of freedom. It would be a mess. And it's a mess in free enterprise.
But you said you're only free in your mind.
You're only free on your mind, yes.
But now they're trying to develop technology to get in that mind.
Oh, that's the worst that can happen. That's the end of humanity, my dear. That's the end of everything. And that's where, if there is no philosophy taking over, it's the total disaster, because it's like inventing the first shuttle, automatic shuttle.
Right.
Because
they want to arrest people for crimes that they think of. And stuff like that. It's
But
crazy.
yeah, you have a big menace. You have a big, an enormous menace with the artificial intelligence and robots that will do the job of humans. But artificial intelligence, if they are in the hands of few people, we will be the one able to buy it, really buy it, and not buy it at the top. So they will impose upon you, but through modern means, using your telephone, using your TV, using everything to brain you, to wash your brains, my dear.
Do you think
completely wash? And the kids like that, we will be born in that. They will not be able to think of something else.
Do you think we could build an AI robot that could win in Las Vegas every time we went down there? That would be a nice way to.
You know that the champ of chess has been beaten by artificial intelligence.
Right.
So you cannot beat artificial intelligence. But if you own artificial, if only a group of people, the 1%, let's talk about them, the 1% owns the artificial intelligence, you're brainwashed. It's over. It's over, and it's exactly what, say, Thomas More, you remember Thomas More, the man of all seasons, which made the movie. Thomas More in 1500 or something like that, in Utopia, he said that those with the money do exactly what they want. They put the laws that preserve their money, whatever, and they put all the other people at their will and back.
Well,
Same thing with artificial intelligence, except that will be the final, my dear. Because in 1500 it was not the final. You still have you still have a lot of, but when we have an instrument that can go with you not accepting it, but we can go through your mind.
Well,
That's over.
if AI can win at chess, chess is very logical. The moves are you have to have a lot of logic.
Yeah.
Maybe you beat artificial intelligence with luck and with not logic. Like I said, you go into Atlantic City or to Las Vegas and have an AI try to do gambling. The odds would be the same for the AI as it would be for a human being. So beating it through randomness.
Well, now my question: how many games did they play that he won?
The chess.
The
It took a couple of
world,
years.
the world.
No,
That was the world.
I understand, but one time?
One game.
Well, I think to make actually the winner, they had to play enough time to make an average.
He was
Because
the
if the champion just got distracted from some reason and lost, that doesn't necessarily make the
No, I
AI
think
a
it-
winner.
I think it took a human being was beating the computer up until a certain period of time, and then once the computer figured out how to win, a human being
the
couldn't
human
beat it.
being was off. And you will be off with artificial intelligence. And don't forget another thing, artificial intelligence will develop and develop and develop and develop
Yeah.
more.
It's with each generation, it just gets more powerful.
So once more, if only a group of people, whatever, capitalist, communist, whatever, if only few people own the artificial intelligence, then it's the end of humanity. Because they will impose that you want it or not, you will not be able to escape all day long. That will go, through every possible means. They know with your telephone, they know everything. They know already every second where you are.
But could you beat it at randomness?
The
Like if you thought illogically, could a AI?
No, listen, artificial intelligence should be a help for humanity. And the robots should be a help, and they do the job, even the dirty jobs. And during they do a dirty job, the one who was doing it before could go practice a sport or whatever it is instead of working. That would be wonderful,
What's the dirtiest job to do?
whatever it is.
Is being a soldier. So once they make AI soldiers,
You get back to it. Bon, all right, okay. But means robot can do the human work. With a robot, you can build a house in one day, a complete house in one day with robots. And beside that, robots have an advantage. There is no leftover, there is no pieces of wood, pieces of whatever it is that you are obliged to do.
No
It's
waste.
all clean, no waste at all clean. In one day, you make a complete hours with that.
Would
That's
it do-
wonderful to send people to practice sailing or flying or whatever it is.
I don't know. We have a robot vacuum cleaner, and that thing does not work very good at all. It just clogs up all the time and keeps going around in circles, and so they haven't quite perfected that. So
No, but they will perfect
I don't
it.
think we have to worry that
They will perfect it. No. What is once more? What is to be feared in that story is that it's a repetition of the steam engine. Except the steam engine was purely mechanical. It changed the life of all the people.
steam engine needed labor. The AI
but
does not
it
need
changed the
labor.
life of all the people, because the people started to go around the train station, the furnitures, everything, instead of being on the barge on the canal here, were now transported by a locomotive. So it transformed the life of people in something like 50 years. Imagine the artificial intelligence. I don't say it will change the life of people in 50 years, whatever it is, but it will change completely, and what is very, very dangerous. You are still able to have your own thoughts against the army, blah, 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 blah. The kid who will have, and we see the other day, kids, I don't know, 3 years old, they are already a telephone. They already do that. So they will do that, but they will do that under the people who will have the artificial intelligence, and they will be brainwashed.
All right, so this is a good point. We're going to move on to our. We're going to try to do a new segment in the show. You said in the beginning you can solve all the world's. What did Gandhi say? You can solve all the world's problems in 3 minutes. Any problem in 3 minutes.
We can solve
Right?
every minute.
So we're going to take the last 3 minutes of the show and solve the problem of artificial intelligence. I'm going to let Michelle go first, and we'll have Anna, and then.
The problem of artificial intelligence, it's not artificial intelligence itself, it's bravo that men are able to do something like that, which will, by the way, improve with the passing years. The thing is that to keep it, to have a power to keep it inside of, it should not go all over the world with no reason, no laws to govern it. On the end, a few people will do what they want with it. Artificial intelligence has to be very, very, I don't want to say limited, but very obey some very strict laws, if you want, of use
And
of
who gets
use
to
of it.
decide those laws?
Nobody so far. And this is what happens.
But you're
today.
saying-
Nobody so far is taking anything about artificial intelligence. You heard of something like that about?
But we're going to solve this problem. You need to tax the.
It's where I say, my dear, it's where I say that if the world is not able to come out with another concept of society, a positive concept of society, forget it. It's the disaster. We are in front of the disaster. So what we propose, and what the arts, talking about me, propose, is a philosophy which is a positive philosophy. And once more, you don't paint outside of the frame to paint the painting. You remain in a logical frame.
Okay, we're going to need to get a little more specific next time. And
No, absolutely.
let's give Anna her 3 minutes here on.
3 minutes.
3 minutes on solving the problem, or less, or more. But
Well, I think we have to grow up emotionally and mentally before we can make any change.
Is that possible? Why are we at that point after so many years of civilization?
We need to meditate more.
You need to what?
Meditate more.
Meditate.
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 Yes.
Yeah, but meditate is something that you have to learn to do. So you believe that if we go in the street and have 100 people, if they meditate, how many will answer
Well,
you?
I would put it in school. There's actually a school that when the kids go in detention and they made them meditate.
Yeah,
And
but
that school lowered to almost to zero detention time because people don't need it anymore.
that's.
so you were handed a note. What is the cryptic
The
note?
note needs that any society, even in the future, has to function, and to function, you can translate that into money. Money
right.
as a means to move, to work, to do things like that. So if and see what I remind me, which is even in my program, if robots take over the world of people, then the robots have to be taxed for the people they replace.
Okay, I can agree with that. And the money to be spent on people
On people and not in the army.
and not onto other robots.
No.
All right, so to sum up, you're saying that, to sum up real quickly, you're saying that with the development of artificial intelligence, we need to be able to have democratic control over the development of AI. And any robots need to be taxed to replace the money that is lost by human labor.
Exactly.
And Anna, what I hear from you is that human beings need to develop emotionally and intelligently more before we start to roll out this technology.
Yes, but they are always.
Well, hold on. Let's hear.
Yeah, but I
Anna.
always object something that actually in the U.S. The situation of education in the U.S. You are not teaching kids
Right.
how to do it.
Right.
Absolutely not. So
That
you
has to
have
be
you have
rebroke.
for all that you also have. It's where everything goes with everything.
Right.
You have to reform completely
Yes.
the way of education.
Yes.
In the US.
Absolutely.
Then after that, eventually, they will be able to meditate, but not before.
Well,
We can do it in the same time.
We want people to meditate, to start as early as possible on meditating. Whether or not they're taught the right way or not, just sit quietly and reflect. And then go listen to Radio Free Will. We've come to the end of our program here today. I want to remind people that they can send in their comments, send it to info@radiofreewill.org, and we'll try to answer any questions. Please subscribe to this program. I want to thank Michelle Mockers for being on the show today. On the controls was Anna Savoya, who spoke up a great deal today, which was nice. I want to thank you for listening. Hold on. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to say it's not you who have to thank me, it's me who have to thank you, because you give me the occasion to eventually talk about the dialectic of the arts, the final goal of my,
Well, then it's a good time to remind people that Thanksgiving's coming up, and we have a lot to be thankful for.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today, and hopefully you'll join us again next week.